Hello world, and welcome to the Genesis Bible study. Today we're at lesson 4. We're looking at day 3, land and plants. And we'll be focusing mostly on the plant side of it because we're going to talk about the origin of life. Let's start by reading the Bible text. It says Genesis 1 verse 9 to 13. And the Lord said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the waters that gathered together he called seas. And God saw it was good. And then God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind, on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the third day. So, quickly, just talking about the earth. Many people probably know about Pangaea and the idea that all the continents fit together so it forms one solid mass. Is it possible? We weren't there. We don't know. Spoiler, the continents are still connected together. It's just a lot of it's covered by water. So it's hard to say. We'll be talking more about what happened and tectonics and things later on when we get to the flood, because it's more interesting to discuss them there. But I just thought I'd give you the thought. Think about this for a moment. Could Pangaea have been what was formed originally? Because remember, the land was together, as was the sea. What we're looking at today mostly is going to be what is life, because we spoke about plants being created. Now, the Bible does say that life is in the blood, giving the idea that a definition of life would be that if it has blood, it's alive. Some would look at if something breathes, it has life. Does it have breath? Is there a soul? Then it is alive. Or does it have a mind? Or anything that exists out of a living cell would be alive. That way you do have plants covered in it. The scientific definition is that any organism that is capable of reproducing. Now, the thing about life is, the Bible says God created plants on day 3. So all of a sudden, the planet Earth was teeming with life. But that's not the story you get these days from out of biology. There, the origin of life happened 3.7 billion years ago. And we don't know how. That is generally how it gets brought. There are certain assumptions made. Firstly, that certain chemical reactions had to happen to form amino acids. That's where the Mill experiment, many other experiments similar to it are happening to try and show that that's possible. The idea already that you need clever people to set up an experiment to create life is already an interesting approach to try and prove that you needed no one to do it. But also another one is the double lipid layer, which surrounds the cell and makes the cell wall also had to form. And also just spontaneously to contain the amino acids, and that's already strange. Now, we like to talk about the simple cell. A cell is not simple. There is a lot going on, and it all has to work. Otherwise, none of it works, and it will not be alive. And that is already challenging. It's almost like saying that randomly throwing a grenade into a scrapyard will create a Boeing 747. It doesn't work that way. It is incredibly hard. That's why people do experiments to try and show how life could have come about, because it just doesn't happen spontaneously. We don't see it. And you get the Miller experiment. The idea being, if you create the right conditions, the way Earth was 3.7 billion years ago, have the right reactions that would have happened then to cause it, you can create life. And they try to catch that life, whatever comes out. Now, there are problems with this experiment. Firstly, they make an assumption about the early atmosphere of Earth, that there was no oxygen. Even though the oldest rock layers we can get to show oxygen, and they actually have oxygen bubbles in them, air bubbles with oxygen in, there has always been oxygen on Earth. You see, the problem they have is oxygen causes oxidation, rusting. That destroys the amino acids. And so that is why they have to make this assumption there was no oxygen. Also, the question is which amino acids were formed. Now, to give you an idea, an amino acid is what is used to build a protein. And you get them in left-handed, right-handed variations. They are complex molecules. Pretty much you can break it all down to different types of amino acids. Now, the thing is, you've got to know there are 2,000 different types of amino acids, of which 20 are used in life. Only 20. You see, and life consists of only the left-handed amino acids. What Miller created was left and right amino acids. He only had about 2 or 3 different types. And there are no proteins. It's like saying, because I have some sand, I know this house can be built. The sand is used to make the bricks build the house. We are not anywhere close to life being created by having amino acids. These experiments don't show anything. The thing is, for this to happen, no one knows how, and the chance of life happening randomly is already something to consider. In maths, we have what we call the law of probability. You see, if something is going to, has a chance of happening of 10 to the 50th power, we consider that certain it will happen. 10 to the minus 50 means it will never happen. The chance of proteins randomly being produced is 10 to the minus 191st power. It means it is absolutely impossible to do proteins, let alone talking about them forming a cell. The chance of this happening is mathematically impossible. From a maths perspective, you cannot believe in life coming by random processes. And based on the evidence, there is no evidence that it happened. And therefore, we cannot follow that either. So, anyway, as far as I'm concerned, God has to be involved in it somewhere. Anyway, if you have any questions, do leave them in the comments. I will be doing a Q&A at the end of the series if I have enough questions. And like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll go further with the next lesson next time. Keep well, and God bless.